is Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
And good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to Soul Voices. I am Griffin Gaming, RPG, and we are back. It's Saturday, July 29th, wrapping up the end of July, moving forward into August. Little hot weather here where I live. Hopefully it's not too hot where you are because the weather's been crazy all over the place. But thank you guys for, I haven't been talking, geez. Thank you guys for joining me today, coming to hang out on a Saturday afternoon. We can talk about the game that we're all very interested in. I was going to say the game we all love, but it ain't all there yet. So it's mixed feelings there, I'm sure. But it is the game that we're all interested in, Star Citizen. This is our Saturday afternoon show. It's our one-on-one show where we discuss subjects that we find within the Star Citizen community on Spectrum, on Reddit, sometimes the gaming industry. And then sometimes I just throw some stuff out there. And today is going to be one of those days where I'm just going to throw some stuff out there. We're kind of in limbo land. Everyone's anticipating CitizenCon coming up in October. And we know that when CIG gets within a month or two of CitizenCon, things start to get quieter. They are usually with their nose to the grindstone, preparing for the convention, whether it was virtual, but even more when we have them in person, which we're going to be doing this year in Los Angeles. And so the amount of content that comes out is somewhat minimal. I'm kind of offsetting my camera here. You guys forgive me. My OCD kicks in when this happens. And so we know that they're preparing for that. Did I push the camera the right way? I guess I did. But anyway, and so just recently, this last week, ISC came on this past Thursday. We saw a really cool show on prototyping. Fastcart covered that with a group of folks who came in and sat in with us. And it was interesting to see how ideas, particularly when mechanics and gameplay, get formulated with the team at Cloud Imperium. Starts out with a nugget. They kind of throw some stuff on the wall and say, let's see how this looks, let's see how it works. And then, of course, over time, it gets refined into a final product. Prototyping, I think Disco said, is something that we don't normally see. It's not something that they ever talk about publicly. Audio, visual, desync. Is there desync? If there is desync, do a reload on your browser and let me know. Are you guys getting desync for me? Is the video and audio coming in two different things? Yeah, you said you did. Is it bad or is it just a little bit off? Let me know because I will see if it's something on my end. I don't think it is, but maybe the internet is acting good. Everybody says it's okay. Wow, 2.5 seconds. Holy smoke, that's pretty crazy. Maybe Twitch is having one of its days. Okay, slight for you, Nomad. Okay, gotcha. Nomad, I sent you an email too. I'm not sure if you looked at it because I haven't looked at the email today, so you may have responded. If you have, I'll make sure I get back to you. So anyway, that show was really great about prototyping. I thought it was kind of cool. I think a lot of people were looking for a lot more from it, or maybe thought they were going to see like what the whole munching thing was going to be about. What I did see that Fastcart didn't talk about, was the fact that much of what they were showing us in the prototype stage and what they seemed to be concerned about, if you guys saw the trailer for the Vulture, that stuff was in the trailer. So it wasn't like they were showing us anything kind of new, if you know what I mean. They were maybe just talking about how we're going to make it happen. But all that stuff they talked about stuff getting sucked in and the lasers and breaking into smaller parts and the grinder, that was in the trailer. So I'm kind of curious as to whether or not that was kind of like a throwback to how it got started, that that's not really where they are, because the trailer produced something that showed us what they wanted to do. So we'll have to see. Sometimes CIG be trying to slide one in on us, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, let's talk about today's show. And this has been something that we have talked about in the past a couple of times, but never really explored, pardon the expression. What the heck is exploration? What the fill in the blank is exploration? I was doing some research and I was trying to debate on whether I wanted to do this as a Soul Voices topic or whether it was going to be something that we would do on the Sunday show as a point of conversation, but I don't think there's enough there to make a whole show out of it on Sunday. So what I'll do is talk about what led to this particular conversation. Back in 2013 and 14, some of you guys know that as funds were coming in for CIG, particularly 2012, 2013, or really 2013, as funds were coming in, they went obviously past the original goal of 2 million. They were at 8 million. Then it kept increasing, right? It kept going up. And CIG put out this little survey. It was like a 3-point survey of what they asked the community. What should we do? You know, we've got all this money coming in. One of the things was, should we keep making goals, right? Should we keep making these goals every time we hit $1 million that we'll add something? Some people said, no, stop talking about how much money you guys are making. And there was a third one. I forget what it was. It's inconsequential. But I want to mention this because the community basically overwhelmingly said, keep going on the first poll. They did 3 of them. The second one, you saw the numbers drop. It was like, in the first one, it was like 98% of the people were like, keep going. A few months later, when they got to the second poll and they'd gotten several millions of dollars come in, then it went to about 75% of the community was like, keep going. 25% of the people were like, okay, you guys can slow your roll a little bit. Then they got to a third poll and it reduced down a little bit more, but it was still the overwhelming number, the higher number, I should say, was still keep going, keep letting us know. So anyway, they cut it off at $65 million. Now, this is what they said, which was interesting because I didn't remember reading this. And I mind you, this was like 9 years ago, so I could have forgotten it because I remember when the poll happened. But one of the things that CIG said was that the reason why we're doing these stretch goals and adding more stuff to the game is because it wasn't that it wasn't in our minds in the first place. These are things that we wanted to do from the very beginning, but we didn't think we'd ever have the funding to do it. They thought that the initial pitch and the basic stuff that they had, if they could just remember, originally they said $2 million. They were like, if we get that money in, this is crowdfunded, blah, 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 blah. And remember back in the day, crowdfunding was still in its infancy when it came to games. I mean, it was going on, but not to the scale of what we see now with Star Citizen, with CIG. And so they basically were like, man, here's some stuff that we said maybe one day we'll do, but ain't no way we need money. We need capital to make some of this stuff happen. And lo and behold, the community provided the capital. They provided the money, the funding to make some of those dreams come true even faster. Now, to me, that's an interesting retrospect, right? Because what it says is there are things that CIG wanted to do, and maybe they figured maybe in time we'll be able to do those things, right? Maybe 5 years later, maybe 10 years down the road, if maybe we make money off of this Squadron 42, we'll be able to expand the universe and do some other things. But because the money came in so quickly, that also made them say, well, here's some things that we said we were going to put on the table. And now we've got the money. maybe we could do it all right now in development. Now, some people may call that, and this subject came up because we just talked about this last week, the idea of feature creep. And some people might say, well, that was feature creep. Well, I will say this. I'm only going by what CIG said. And a lot of times when people talk about feature creep, some of it came from Chris's reputation previously when he was at Microsoft and he worked on other games, where Microsoft was basically saying, hey, you keep wanting to do things and stretch this thing out, blah, 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 and we can't do that. That the game needs to come out. And so people came from that context and said, oh, Chris is probably doing the same thing here where he's feature creeping. And maybe that's the case. I wasn't there. I don't know. But let's give the benefit of the doubt that maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe that these were things that they said that they would like to do. Now, we do have an example of that. One of the examples of that was the procedural planets aspect of landing. We've talked about this in the last couple of weeks. This keeps coming up. That originally CIG told us, we want to be able to make it so that you could land on planets and go different places. But right now, we're not there. The tech's not there. Maybe 2, 3, 4 years from now, we'll make that happen, right? And nobody came with that expectation. When they showed us their first example of landing on a planet at a landing zone, it was all automated. You didn't fly down. You didn't control anything. You just said, hey, I want to land. The control tower said, okay, stand by, sit back, have a cigarette, get some coffee. And you literally watched your plane do this cinematic where you flew down and you landed on a pad. Then once you were landed, it would cut back to you in the cockpit and then you get out and do your thing, right? That's right. Freelancer style. Thank you, Carpagian. Very good. Yeah, that was the way it was supposed to be because that was what they knew they could do. But as you know, unexpectedly, one of their engineers figured out how to make it happen, right? And so that did definitely probably change some things in the way things were done. Now, that was on their wall, not planning to do, but it got expedited. That was because the technology got created. But here, they say, well, we've got the money now. And there's some things we know we could do. We just need the money to be able to do it. And so then the money comes in. So then they're able to do some other things. Now, again, some people may say that was feature creep. I don't see it as feature creep. But that's just me, my opinion. Now, you ask, what does that got to do with our title today? Well, one of the other surveys that CIG did was ask the community of the different things you want to be able to do in the game. What's the thing you want to do, right? And, there's a variety of things that came in. People came up with trading and this and this and this and this and this and this. PvP, combat, mercenary, all these things, medical. But the number one thing that got voted in was exploration. That was the number one thing that people said they wanted to do. Now, I find it very interesting whenever we talk to people about exploration and we talk about this idea of exploring in the Star Citizen universe. I really wonder, and I want to challenge you guys today to think about what does that mean? And what does it mean to you? Now, you could tell me what you think it is that CIG is talking about, or you could tell me what it is you would like to do. I'm willing to take one of those. Like, what is it you would like to see for exploration? I would like to hear that. I really would. But CIG has given us some inkling behind the curtain of what they think exploration will be or what the mechanics of it are. But I'm really curious as to what that means. Now, I've tried to go back and look at my history of gaming, of space games that supposedly or implied or inferred or marketed that, oh, you can go into this game and do exploration. And surprisingly, it was only a handful of games that met that. I was really surprised. I kept trying to think, if is exploration me just finding something that's there and I didn't know about it, or is there an aspect of discovery that allows me to expand on that exploration? And I'm not talking about in relation to gameplay, like information, like I go somewhere and it opens up a mission. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about from a place of science and exploration, what has the game provided that makes me feel like I'm an explorer? Now that could be a lot of things. Now, one of the games that I know that we did do that with was Elite Dangerous. When I did Elite Dangerous, I felt like I was exploring. Yeah, it was the universe that we were familiar with, but so much of our universe is untapped and unseen that being able to get into my ship and travel to certain places that I had only seen on a celestial chart or seen a name of and go there and see it. I felt like, wow, especially in Elite. For those of you who played Elite, you kind of feel like you're the only person who's out there. So I felt like I was really exploring. I was going to some places that some people had never seen before. Maybe somebody had, but for me, it felt like, wow, when I went there. Now, when I got there, Was there anything to do other than catalog it and report that I found it? Not really, but I did feel like I was exploring. Now, would it have been so much cooler if I could have went down to those planets or moons and landed and did some stuff or saw something or came across something? Maybe, No Man's Sky provides an avenue of exploration, right? You go to these different places and see things that you've never seen before. You don't even recognize them, right? You go there and you don't even know what that is. Is that creature benign, or is it something's going to eat me up? Same thing with the plants, right? I mean, weather systems, all types of stuff. There's an aspect of discovery that happens in that game too. But I can keep going down a few more games, but not very many, that have made me feel like I was truly, truly, truly exploring. So that's going to be the theme of today's show, exploration. Okay, that's what I want you guys to be thinking about, is exploration. I'm going to warm us up to that final conversation. Okay, so based on what you know right now about Star Citizen and what they've offered us in relation to the tools we need to explore, one of the biggest tools that they've shown us are the ships, right? The vehicles. So I want to present the first question to you. Okay. We've got several. And if I'm missing one, please tell me, because I as always, up late putting the show together. I might have forgotten something. But these ships here, the Misk Dur, the Kani, the RSI constellation Aquila, whichever way you pronounce it. I got Kai coming in here a little bit. Maybe he could tell me how to pronounce that. The Origin, 600I Explorer, the Misk Odyssey, and the Anvil Carrack. Am I forgetting one, guys? If I am, please let me know, because it'd be very easy for me to realize there's some exploration ship that I missed. These are ships that are designated as explorers. Okay, I know you can go exploring whatever you want. I get it, guys. Thank you, Carpathian. 400I. Yes, how could we leave off, especially me being an Origin guy? How could I leave off the 400i? Thank you. Yes. Alrighty. The Corsair. Is the Corsair an explorer? I can't remember. I know it's dual. It is, isn't it? It does. It falls into that category, right? The Corsair. All right. I'll buy that for $1. All right. We'll throw that in there too. Where is it at here? Corsair. The Corsair. I think the Corsair is a little bigger than the 400i. So we're going to put it here. If I'm wrong on my sizes, guys, forgive me. I'm just trying to... bad typing. Don't want to mistype it. All right, there we go. Thank you. I knew there was something I was forgetting. All right, very good. Okay, yeah. Starting out with these ships, I want you to tell me, here's the first question. And the first question is not about all that stuff that I was talking about earlier. That was the stuff I was just giving you to give you background for the show. Dur, Aquila, 400i, Corsair, 600i, Odyssey, Carrack. Which one and why? Okay. If you got a second one and it's for the same reasons, and I want to bar the wormhole thing, right? The size of the wormhole or the gate. I get that. Okay. I understand, but, if you wanted to say which one is the one you think you're going to, like doing because of what the ship is touted to do. Now, some of these ships, we don't know completely what they're going to do. So keep that in mind, right? But this might go into what you think you would like to do when it comes to exploring. Okay. And then we'll kind of pick it up from there. All right. Okie dokie. So let's start bringing some folks in. Who we got here? We've got Pops in Space, and we've got Kai. I'm going to bring in Pops in Space. Pops, you there?
Yes, I am.
How are you, my friend?
Okay, how are you today?
Good. What you got?
All right. You do have a little bit of lag.
Still?
Yeah.
Then it's Twitch. Because
so
I checked my numbers here. I'm okay on my end, so it must be Twitch.
You're okay on your end?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay, me and my son first came in the game, we did own a Carrack, and I'm not gonna say it was a mistake, but by lack of knowing, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
We got rid of the Carrack that we had, and we moved up to something else.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking and looking at the game now that I would go back to getting one Well, and it's supposed to be the king of exploration. There's supposed to be no other ship that's supposed to be able to go out as far and do as much as it can. But I also want to mention too that, you know, we may be missing a piece to exploration. And this is my thought, local exploration in the system. Now, Stanton is probably too small, but we are coming up on Pyro, which is a much larger system. And it opens up the possibility to have a system local exploration where you may need to find caves, different things that they can pop into the verse from time to time, you know, activate. So local exploration is to me is another thought that we may need to think about and look into and open our minds to local system exploration with a ship that may not be able to go through a jump gate, but it can do, you know, like I said, caves, different things that are needed, plants, minerals, things like that.
Okay, so for you, you're saying you think that the Carrack is the one that you want to go with?
Yeah, for now. For right
for
now.
now. Okay. All right.
Because the game changes. It changes.
Okay. Fair enough.
Evolves.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Pops.
All right.
Thank you much, brother.
Okay.
All righty. Let's bring in Kai Zinn. Kai, are you there? Did Kai go get something to drink? We may have to bring Kai Zinn back. Kai? I think Kai stepped away. Oh,
hello.
There he is.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I had not. The Go XLR was muted. That's my mistake.
I've done it too. That's I start my shows out like that every week. Don't worry. Go ahead.
I'm talking and I'm like, hello. All right. So for me, for sure,
okay,
the one that I'm interested in right now is the Drake Corsair, because the Drake Corsair is basically supposed to be the two-man Carrack. It's supposed to be this does what a Carrack does on a smaller scale.
Okay.
Now, I think you brought up an important point when you said, I don't want to get into a whole conversation about, you know, the wormhole sizes and whatever. And I think the reason why, if I had to guess, you're at that is because that is undefined right now by CIG and may change, subject to change. And I think that that's sort of an overlying template that you would add on to this entire area of conversation is everything with exploration right now is undefined. So like what it's going to be, we don't know. And as we don't know what it's going to be, and as we don't know what any of these ships are going to be when they're in their final form, it's like saying...
It's difficult. I know it's difficult.
Yeah.
Hold on. Because you're going into the later question about what is exploration. So we're going to go into that. So keep your thought. Don't go anywhere.
Can I leave you with one other thought, though, that I want to make sure you add to the conversation for exploration
and your vote,
for later?
And I just want to make sure your vote is for right now, the Corsair, based upon what you got. Okay, gotcha. Okay, go ahead.
Because it's the two-man Carrack, and the Carrack is the do everything. The Carrack is the 10-pound Swiss Army knife, right?
Okay.
And the thing is sometimes having a 10-pound knife in your pocket is a little much. So that the Corsair is the 2 pounds. So it's like, okay.
Fair enough.
I like the way you described Elite Dangerous exploration. I would throw in that you've got, you know, Nomansky exploration with its sort of much more buckets of randomized things to do.
Yeah.
Elite Dangerous had such a beautiful galaxy model. It was right there. It was said to be the perfect exploration game, and then they fumbled and didn't put anything in there. So it's 10 billion things to explore, and all of them are empty. But I would like to recommend that you include in the conversation, or for people to think about while they're thinking about it for the show, for the conversation. The game that I believe did exploration the best out of all the space games that I've seen thus far.
Solaris.
No, because I'm talking about of the multiplayer games.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoy the exploration of Eve, because when they put in the wormholes, they put in skills and lots of actual practical things that you as a player need to do with learning skills,
Mhm.
using tools, and you actually, and yes, it's faux science,
But still,
but you have a gameplay loop that is rich and rewarding with
Yeah.
things that you have to learn to do to get right. And then you can navigate through K-space, through all these different holes. You can get shortcuts across the universe.
Mhm.
And I think that is where I really, really hope CIG goes, where they do some smart things where it provides actual sort of skills that you can learn and apply to do it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I forgot about Eve. I don't know how I could have let Eve go, but you're right. I think the reason why I felt funny about Eve is that virtually everything was explored by somebody ahead of me by the time I got into it. But I get it. Oh
Did
yeah,
you play
absolutely.
Wormhole?
Oh, absolutely.
If you played with wormholes,
Absolutely. It was definitely,
then
that was a experience once you went to a wormhole. Once you found
And
one,
it was
you were
unique.
thrilled to death once you even found one. You saw the little, distortion in space. And it's like, oh my God, it's a wormhole. And I was terrified to go inside of it for the first time. But no,
brother,
very cool.
I spent months living in a
Living in
wormhole
it.
corp, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, it changed the dynamic of the game
And
dramatically.
we would not only, so we lived in a wormhole corp and we did all of that play, but then we also would use the ability to chart through, and with stealth bombers you could drop into the goon's backyard and just get into all kinds of mischief.
That was good
All right,
stuff.
brother.
Thanks,
Talk to
buddy.
you later.
All right, Kai. All right, I completely forgot about that. Jeez, oh Pete. Let me bring in bring in North End. I think North End was here first. Hey, North End, how are you, buddy?
Good, sir. How you been?
I'm doing good. Got a ship in mind here?
I feel like trying to bundle all these ships together is kind of a disadvantage to a couple of them.
Okay.
Here, let me kind of back up. The way I see exploration is the way I see how I am in real life. You know, when you're 8 years old, you get your first bike, you're going to go explore your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, the class would be your Freelancer Tour, your 400i, the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go off to college, you're going to go explore other places far away from home. You're probably going to be in something more of a kind of a Corsair, the 600i, the Aquila.
Mm-hmm.
And then later down the life, when you grow up and you become a real explorer and you want to go to the depths of the ocean, or go to the very limits of or into space, then you're going to be looking at more serious ships like an Endeavor or any other capital class ships out there.
Okay.
So my answer to this would be kind of, it depends. If I'm trying to explore in just one specific system, it'd probably be a smaller ship because it logistically doesn't make sense to take an Endeavor to fly it around Pyro. That's for hopping multiple systems. But if I was going to go to multiple systems and make sure that that specific type of ship has the right sensor package on there to go explore a certain type of mineral or organism that I want to be looking for, it depends.
Okay.
So I'm a MISC fan, so if I can go for the big bad boy, it's going to be the Endeavor.
Okay, you're going to go for the Endeavor. All right, fair enough. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. And good old North End comes in with some good info. Let me bring in Fist to Face. Fist, you there?
Hey, what's going on, Griff?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I know you got a line back there. So,
Okay.
I'm leaning towards that 600. I'm
Okay.
all right. You know what? Because I don't know exactly what it does on paper.
Right.
But it's got to do something.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I know about the Carrack. Know about the Odyssey, but the 600i. Reason why I'm picking that one is because you will have access to exclusive areas.
Yeah, but I remind you, I'm keeping this within the context of exploration. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but
yes,
I don't want to go into that. You're taking it into the whole tourism luxury side of it. I want to keep it with exploration though. But don't get me wrong. The cool thing about the 600i is that we know there's a rework coming, so we'll have to see. Maybe this will be the ship that we actually see what a full exploration ship looks like, right?
Yeah, because that's the thing. I was just trying to make my decision based off of.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right, later.
All righty. Let me bring in Admiral Kusanagi. Admiral, you there?
Uh-oh, my turn.
Yes, sir.
I mean, some of these ships are, I think, lifestyle ships. If I'm in a 400i, I'm not going to go to a Corsair because it's an in-between to the 600.
Okay.
I might go to the 500 instead.
Okay.
But and then I look at Indiana Jones, and he's never going to get into an Endeavor. He
Okay.
doesn't do that type of exploration. You're going to go out with a couple people. If you want to do and if you have an org, yeah, I could see bigger ships. But I don't think someone who starts off in a Dur or what's the 350? Is it the 315P? Is that?
Oh, I forgot about the 315P. Yeah, I got to add that one. Yeah, thank you. I completely forgot. And by the way, I don't want to go down to self-examination of all the possibilities. I want to know for you.
I have a 400i. If somebody wants to join me in a 400i, that would be fantastic.
400i.
And I have a Carrack, but of course, a Carrack is just if I have more people.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay, that's cool. And thank you for mentioning the 315P because I completely forgot about it. Thank you, buddy.
No problem.
All righty, there we go. We're knocking it down here. I want to say Black BBG might be up next if I'm not mistaken. So let me bring him in here. BBG, you there?
Griff, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, every day's a blessing.
Good. I'm not sure if you were here for the opening or not. I made a long speech at the beginning, but the theme is exploration. And the question is of the different exploration ships, if there was something here that is your go-to. And again, barring the fact of the size of wormholes, it's just a completely subjective question. Which of the exploration ships is the one that you would lean toward?
I'll give you my quick answer very quickly.
Okay.
It is the Anvil Carrack.
Okay.
And the Anvil Carrack, and that is right now, the way the game is configured right now. I'm like Pops on this.
Okay.
Right now, my answer may change.
Okay.
But CIG has told us there's exploration pathfinding, there's exploration luxury, and there's exploration expedition.
Right.
And when I look at the current QT, quantum fuel amounts, I want the Corsair to compete, but it doesn't.
Okay.
It just doesn't.
Okay.
The Carrack is, about 8 times the amount of quantum fuel capacity. So if I'm going to go out there and do exploration the way I want to do it, it's got to be the Anvil Carrack.
Anvil Carrack. Okay, another Carrack vote. All right, my brother. Appreciate you.
All right.
All right. Go to bring in MT Stunner. Stunner, you there?
I am, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I had to miss the last few Saturdays, so I'm glad I could make it back.
Oh, glad to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, so I thought North End did a great analogy, and it just made me chuckle in my own mind because I was thinking about his analogy, and I said, I bet if he could have got a rocket ship for less than the price of 2 bicycles, he probably would have asked for that rocket ship instead of a bicycle.
Fair enough.
So Endeavor is where I'm going. I mean, I love the 315, I love the 600i, but when I started it with this game, which isn't as long as like some of you guys here, but the Endeavor and the pictures of it is really what I made an emotional connection with. I really fell in love with that. And, all of these things we're talking about, there's so many unknowns. So I just think about like the way I envision, what I want Star Citizen to be.
Right.
And, what I want to do with a lot of people in a space MMO and, all the hopes and dreams I have for what any of these ships can be. I just think that embodies all of them. So that would be my pick.
Okay. Endeavor, boy, another for the big boy there. All right. Thank you, Stunner. All right.
You bet.
All right. Let me bring in Dark Knight 75 DK. Hey, buddy. How are you?
Oh, feeling cool after the last few days.
Finally, right? It finally leveled off a little bit.
Finally.
I know. It's ridiculously hot here.
Breathe.
I know.
Okay. Short and simple, 600. Now, everything that I am discussing from here on out, and I'll try to keep it short, is based post rework and when we actually have some semblance of exploration gameplay, because everything exploration wise right now in the current state of the game, I can do with the 315, Dur, Aquila, 400i, Corsair, every single ship that is released on that list right there. I can do the exact same thing in every single ship, barring having a snub fighter or a snub. I don't need a snub. So that's just added gameplay for there's really no added gameplay. It's just you have your snub. And you just kind of go around and do stuff.
Okay.
Or I can carry a vehicle. But 600i, I'm talking post-rework. I think it's going to fit that bridge between local exploration and expedition. I think they didn't know what role it was going to fit. They had the Aquila, and they thought the 600i was going to fit in that, and then the 400i comes out, and it fits where it would be.
Well, let me ask you a question. Because
the Aquila fits, or let
me ask you this question, because you touched on something that I didn't talk about, or we haven't talked about, or no one else has mentioned. Some of these ships have vehicle bays, some of them have launch bays, right? Mm-hmm. And do you feel that there is and some don't have any, right? The 315, obviously, so much for that, right? The Endeavor, if you don't put the hangar bay on it, well, it can, the top module can leave, the main module can leave on that one, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the DUR you can launch something from, the Aquila you can launch something from, 400i Corsair. Can you launch anything from the Corsair? No, you can't launch anything from no, you can't launch anything from the Corsair. Oh, yes, you can. From the back. Yeah, vehicle will come out the back. 600i, Odyssey, and Carrack. Okay, so other than the 315p, does that have a factor for you that, like for your 600, for example, you could land and go out in your vehicle, where someone who might have a Aquila can say, I can use my P-52 to do survey of, without bringing my ship down, right? So does that help for you in the sense of that 600i, that vehicle aspect? Is that something that for exploration means something to you?
The vehicle aspect is 100% part of it.
Okay.
That's for deeper exploration.
Right.
So those ships that are able to carry larger vehicles are designed to go for deeper exploration, say an Aquila or a Carrack, or a 600i. Now, I'm talking post rework.
Right.
I expect the 600i to have a much larger fuel tank than what it currently has. Okay. It'll have a larger cargo bay than it currently has. It'll have more, storage.
Okay.
It'll have more amenities closer to the Carrack sans a hangar bay.
Okay.
And and modularity.
Okay.
For exploration. It's going to. I have a feeling that is going to be the sweet spot for those that don't need the large capabilities of a Carrack.
Okay.
But they still want to do deeper exploration that they can't do in the other ships that are smaller. So that's my take.
Fair enough. All right, DK. Appreciate you, brother. All right. Last but not least, Sir Togi. Togi, you there?
What up?
Hey, buddy.
So I got a real simple answer for you.
Fire away, my friend.
Corsair, because it's going to be the best at exploring other people's stuff.
Yeah. You're taking exploration to a whole nother level here.
You find it. I get it.
Yeah, that's something to consider. Now, I mean, in a serious way, right?
There's not a ship on this list that the Corsair won't take down.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I'll grant you that. You could be the pirate explorers who plunder the person who's in their Carrack and get their stuff from them, right?
All of your stuff, all of these finds. Hell, I even think, isn't there a system in Star Citizen's lore that was found by pirates?
Yeah. Yes, there is.
So
I'll think of it in a minute. It'll pop up probably when you walk out of here. I'll probably think of it. But yes, it is interesting. I mean, for some people, you can get into the whole thing about whether people role play or whatever. But to me, I think that's an exciting aspect of role play, right? Yep. You think about, and I digress a little bit here because Sir Togi's got my brain flowing here. I think about, was it Star Trek 4? Where, the Klingons wanted the Genesis Project, right? They couldn't create it. They couldn't make it. So what did they do? They listened in on transmissions. They found out where these guys were. Then they finally caught them and said, hey, give us the Genesis technology. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Yep.
If somebody's imaginative, they ain't got to do the work. All they got to do is take it. Yeah. Basically take it. All right, buddy. Thank you, Togi.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a different level of exploration. That's for sure. Okay. All right, so this was a surface question to get the brain cells rolling here, guys. We're going to go to the next question, and now I'm going to challenge you a little bit more. Everybody kind of touched on this a little bit, and Kai really did at the beginning when he opened up by saying, we really don't know what exploration is completely. We've just got little breadcrumbs, right? Little hints to of what we think as players, what CIG has shared in their design documents and through the lore. But I really want to think about like something Kai said earlier. He said that Eve definitely had the playground for it, right? They definitely had the playground for it. Who was that? Thank you, Envoy, for the resub. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you. By the way, don't forget we're doing our charity for St. Jude Children's Hospital. You guys have got us almost at $1,500. We're almost halfway to $2,000, our next tier. So thank you guys so much for that. Thank you. We'll do a little thing on it a little bit later. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, Kai was talking about how having my McConnell moment here, guys. God, I think of the stupid game. Frontiers game, how they had the playground for the area. Thank you, Elite Dangerous at the playground. Okay. But when you went out there was nothing there. Now, it would have been interesting if they had decided to do this next thing, which is the next question. I think this is the next question. If it's not, I'm gonna fool myself. Yeah. The next question is this. What could the science career look like? Now, let me go off of what Kai was saying. That playground that was, Kai's here. So I'll bring him in, and then if he wants to put in his 2 cents, that's fine. Kai, you there?
Hello, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my speech, and then you can tell me what you think.
Sure.
Because when you said that, they created this playground, but it was when you get out there was nothing. It would have been really cool if Frontier had decided to go with science and decide to say what were locations that could possibly contain some form of life.
Yes, sir.
And then create those spaces out there, unbeknownst to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that when we went into a certain system, obviously, probably not humanoid, but finding something there, maybe something on the level of flora, maybe something on the level of fauna, maybe something or water, biologics, anything, right? They could have taken science with just aspects of probability and possibility, right? I mean, you go to No Man's Sky, we're going completely fiction. Every place you go to's got something. But in this particular scenario, they could have used that into some of those systems that we would have gone into. So my question to you is, in Star Citizen, because there's this marriage of exploration and science. I mean, obviously exploration can be nothing more than stumbling upon a planet that has biomes, right? That's maybe got caves. But you also, when you hear the word exploration, think about bringing science along with that, right? To be able to understand what it is you're seeing.
Sure.
Now, as you know, most of the ships have nothing but placeholders in them. I think, as you mentioned earlier, the Carrack is probably the one ship where there's actually designated areas. Like you've got a cartography room, you've got a drone room, you've got a repair room, you've got a scanning globe. But even with those placeholders, you still don't completely know what the mechanics are, what they will completely do, right? So
they're not, the loops aren't filled in, so you don't know
which of those
are to be assigned and which of those are just art.
Right, but for the most part, I'm saying we see some of them repeated. The 400 eyes got a cartography area. So my point is, what's the science supposed to look for you? What do you think would be, for people who are into exploration, and if science is coupled to that, what are the type of things you would like to see come out of that for gameplay? What do we do when we stumble across that planet that you talked about earlier that actually has something there?
So you're going to want to have, for sure, cartography is a must. That's just starting off. You're going to be wanting to be able to accurately describe what is where. You're going to need to have all kinds of sensors. You're going to need to have a science area. I mean, you have to keep in mind the fact that, like, for example, you say, planets will have this or that. There'll be areas where things are in planets. Like, for carbon-based life forms, you're going to basically want to be in sort of the Goldilocks zone. You're going to want to be close enough to a star that gives off the right amount of heat, but not too far, so that you could have water molecules and you can have whatever. But in an ammonia-based life form or a silica-based life form or other life forms that are dissimilar to carbon-based life forms, you're going to want to, it's going to be in a different zone.
Right.
You're
right.
going to need to be able to do composition of atmosphere. You're going to want to do checks for all kinds of contaminants and any kind of things that are dangerous for people to deal with. You're going to want to have places where you can study things that you find, elements, whether they be elements or minerals or you know, organic material or whatever, and study that. What is geology or, you know, any of that, to say like, hey, what here is dangerous to life? What here is valuable to us? What here do we need to look for to avoid and look for to go after? You're going to want to definitely have something to do with like trying to communicate with any other intelligent life forms. I mean, most of the, it's speculated under the Drake equation that most of the life that we come across are going to be prokaryote cells. It's going to be life that could literally wipe us all out, but you're talking about a single cell organism where it could literally be, hey, this could be a bacteria that we find on Mars that kills everybody. But then there's the difference between the prokaryote and the eukaryote cells, and that's when you end up with getting eventually like animals and things that could have intelligence and things that could evolve and whatever. Man, there's a trillion different
right?
possibilities. And as a game company, they're going to have to make some decisions. They're going to have to make some compromises and say, we're going to go with this. What I hope will happen, what I very much hope will happen, is that they're going to make some compromises to get a product out the door, have a very successful game, and then spend the next 20 to 30 years adding more loops and more expansions and more whatever, and keep making money and keep making more in-depth loops, so that, you know, if you try to make a game that has everything, it's going to take you 200 years to get it out, and your company's going to fail, and you're never going to make anything. Whereas if you make something that's really good to start and then continue to iterate on it, you can really maybe do something amazing. And I'm going to let other people hop in now.
No, that's fair. No, thanks. That's a great background for things to consider. Because the science thing for me, you know, when we talked about careers in the game, people have named everything, right? Mercenary, blah, 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 piracy, blah, blah, blah. And even though science has come up, I don't hear too many people talking about looking at science as a career, like things that, like there's somebody on your ship, a science officer, right? Who, once you've done the exploration, here's somebody that knows how to interpret and get the benefits of what it is we've stumbled across, right? And that might be something that, you know, like I said, down the line, but I think it's going to be partnered with the exploration side. Science is going to be partnered with exploration in some form, you know.
Sure.
To me,
I mean, if you remember back Babylon 5, the chick that was dating the commander, that she came in every once in a while, she was a space geologist. She literally went to different stars and planets and found minerals and sold mineral rights to corporations. That provides all kinds of opportunities, you know, and that's just one of a trillion possibilities
that we can do. Okay.
Let's see what Admiral thinks.
All right. Thanks, Kai. All right. Let's bring in Admiral Kusagi. By the way, I've listed some ships here differently this time. Now, mind you, please keep in mind, I mentioned this earlier, a lot of the ships have placeholders in them. I'm not ignoring the DIR. I'm just basing this around when you go inside of a DIR, there's only so much space. There is a space area there for what could be science or something, but it's a small area, right? It's not like a whole section. We do know that when they showed us the gray box or the white box on the Odyssey, that there was an area dedicated towards science and scanning. The Carrack the same way, the Endeavor the same way. The Sin, which is one of the ships that I forgot to list on the original list, is also considered a science exploration ship. In fact, when you go in there, there's a whole science workstation with a microscope and all this stuff. Now, is that just a placeholder? Is that microscope there because it literally is going to be something that you will be doing a form of science with? So please keep that in mind. I'm not ignoring the other ships. I'm just putting these here as examples of when we start talking about the science side of exploration, okay? Admiral Kusanagi.
Hello, hello.
Yes, sir. What do you think about this thing about what do you think science would look like?
Everything Kaya said is just total BS.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. No, I mean, so It's interesting. People don't talk about the Carrack kill and all that, but like the Carrack is an exploration ship, and the Odyssey specifically is a survey ship. So it's designed to get down and figure out what a planet actually has on it, like what's inside the soil. You know, what you guys were talking about is like, can you mine stuff there? So I'm looking for like biochemistry type of gameplay. Anything that I could go to a college right now and be like, hey, what type of classes can I take? And I would love to see that type of stuff in this game. Like again, geology. Is there any? Are they going to put like volcanoes or magma, repositories and like inside the ground someplace? We don't know anything about that yet. Maybe it's a little too beyond Star Citizen right now. But that's the kind of like what I want to do. I want to see everything that like from everything that deals with like blood and plants and everything that, and like the one things we need is we need hydrogen. We need being able to determine if there's like a gas giant. Can ships use it? What can I turn these gases into? Can I put a refinery station here? Can I in the future? Does the planet have water so people can actually, and is it breathable? So people can put like outposts there. All that stuff needs to be these science gameplay needs to do. And of course the Sen won't be able to do all that. Sen may be able to do a little bit of it. And then as you expand further out, if you have a large enough ship, you should be able to do more and more. So that I think it's very promising. If people have talked to me lately about CitizenCon, I've been like pushing for like, we need to know something about science. Like it's like between science and engineering, they keep us in the dark so much. It's ridiculous.
Okay. No, I agree.
I would love to see I want to see another science ship.
Something
specifically, because the Odyssey's a little bit, I don't know with the Odyssey, like the Sen and the Odyssey is a little bit, I just want to see a middle ship. I want to see something like Argo Mole sized. And then to kind of get it a little bit more scale and be able to figure this thing out. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you, Admiral.
Thanks.
All right. Let me bring in Stunner. Stunner, you there?
I am, sir.
Okay. What do you think about this thing with science? What could science look like?
Yeah. Well, I've thought about a lot about this because this is definitely what I want to do with the game. But I'm glad, like you said, that you put career in there. Those of us that are Origin owners, we can afford to do exploration on the side, but a lot of poor like Drake owners out there that got to worry about making enough fuel to explore.
Wait a minute, was that a shot across the bow at the Drake? Because the fact that you even threw poor in there just made me laugh. Okay, I'm like, oh my god, you Drake owner, you get the Drake folks, they're gonna get their pitchforks and come after you. Go ahead.
All good fun. But no, I know a lot of people have been worried about like I hope they don't make science like really tacky or they don't put a lot into it. But I think this is where Star Citizen could actually really shine with both the reputation system and with the quantum system. So like a lot of that has been talked about is like, well, not everybody can be the first to, discover new things. But if you think about like science in the real world, it's always ongoing. Like we always need more research about like just the same subject over a long period of time.
Right.
So I think when it comes to a career, there can always be a base amount of money for going to this planet and finding this ruins. Like, so people that want to do it as a career can always expect to at least make, enough money to pay that gas bill, this, that, and the other thing. But there can be a like for the first people to discover it, like the first, I don't know, like 200 or 500 people, maybe they make a little bit more, and then it kind of goes down until it hits like this base level just for going there and getting more research on it. But the quantum system can play a big part. If there's like, for instance, let's say there's a Vandal incursion into one system. The quantum system could say, hey, we need more people that do science and exploration to go into this system and collect data for us. So even though this system has, not been paying a lot for science, now all of a sudden maybe we could collect like, different types of readings based on that Vandal incursion to try to help them with, researching like Vandal weapons and the after effects and things like that. So now it's paying more. So I think the quantum system could play big into that. And then the other thing I think about with like science career, there's obviously like the research and the discovery, but then in my mind, it's like the ability to like use that research. So for reputation, I think like you would have to earn reputation along the science career line for ships like the Endeavor to be able to like overclock those components. and be able to use it in your ship or to do that work for other people to use it on theirs. Like, you know, unless somebody has that reputation, they can't just repair it themselves. They have to come back to us, you know, or something like that. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, we had a feature like that in. I know I always say it. Star Wars Galaxies. There was there was a role in there called oh Jesus. These were people that you went to, somebody who played Galaxies, y'all help me out with this. When you wanted to get a weapon upgraded, they had the ability, there were not carbiners, I can't think of what they called them. But like, let's say you had a rifle, really nice rifle. You couldn't improve it. You couldn't do anything to make it better. You had to seek these people out. They may have had a shop, or you may have had rumor that they hang out at a certain place. Slicers. Thank you, Nomad. And they would slice your weapon. Now there was the better they were, the higher the percentage of the weapon being upgraded, and also it not being destroyed in the process, right?
Sure.
So you always took a risk with a slicer. You know, you might have given them your third best weapon, not your first best weapon, unless they were really high rated. If they were highly rated, you could trust that if they sliced it, it was going to be an even better weapon. You know what I mean? But what was cool was that it created an interdependency within the universe, so that I couldn't be this guy who did everything per se. There were some people, because of their experience, like you said, maybe people who've done science at a certain level, have done certain things, they just are able to do some things a little bit better than if I do it myself, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh,
so with the science thing, particularly, like you said, if people have visited certain areas or if they've done certain things, and I know the CIG has kind of tried to tie that in, even with things like hacking and some other stuff, you know, that it's not skills per se, like levels, but it's the experience of knowing what to do that allows you to do some other things. So I don't know. We'll see what they do, but I like the idea of what you shared. I really, really do. I think that's some pretty cool stuff. All right, Stunner. Thank you, man. All right. Let me bring in, I'm going to bring Fast Car. I'm going to bring you in last. I'm going to bring in Togi. Togi, you there?
Yep.
Yeah, buddy. What you got what does science look like for you for the career?
Yeah. In the context of exploration, what I would really like to see is alternate recipes for making refined commodities, kind of like you see in Satisfactory.
You just went into the area that I was going to ask you about after you finished, and I'm glad you said that. And that was, do we see this as being another means of crafting from a different perspective?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like if you look at Damascus steel, which is a type of crucible steel. One of the reasons that people think that was so good is that it was natural impurities in the ore that they used around Damascus.
Okay.
And so you could use that in the context of Star Citizen by maybe, instead of having to create an alloy, that maybe you find someplace that already has that alloy pre-mixed. And then that's your science.
That's great.
Or maybe
I love that.
Yeah, or maybe you find a moon that has a lot of iron and a very heavy carbon dioxide atmosphere, so you can make steel just by aerating molten iron, something like that.
Yeah,
I think that'd be cool.
I love the idea of what you said. I was just thinking about when I talked about the Sin, and the Sin's got that little science station in it with the microscope and all that stuff. Maybe one of the things is when you're using that on a survey, and it goes down and finds, for example, you just mentioned, let's say you find some iron. Maybe on the physical visual side, we think, oh, it's just iron, right? Or maybe just an initial scan, it's iron. But maybe someone who goes up and uses the science station finds out that not only is it iron, but it's a certain particular type of iron, right? That first of all has certain properties to it for crafting that make things a certain way. Also for selling, right? If I sold this at the normal price thinking it's plain old iron, maybe I'm thinking, oh, this stuff sells for 25 AUE or a unit, and I found out this stuff is actually worth 75 AUE a unit. There's a whole lot of other dynamics that having that ability or having access to the equipment from science might give you some edge that if you didn't have it, you just think, oh, it's just some, like right now, iron in the universe is all over the place. Who cares, right? But if you come across this particular iron, as you mentioned, hey, maybe that's something that, is more meaningful to you as a player, or for crafting.
Yeah.
I love the crafting idea. I think that's definitely a way to go. Recipes and things like that for people who really want to specialize in that, because some people don't care about that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they don't. And there are other people who they'll nerd out over it. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. crafting in MMOs, that's what makes a great MMO to me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, that and piracy.
Yeah, as always. All right, Togi. Thanks, buddy. All right, let me bring in North End, and then we're going to go to our final one for the day. North End, you there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy.
So, science is kind of an ambiguous term.
Big time.
And so, just for the sake of argument, just using for exploration, I don't know who said it, but it kind of spurred an idea.
Okay.
Science, piggybacking off exploration, can act like a refinery for a miner. So a miner can get the raw ore, sell it to raw data as a data runner, or you give to the science personnel, they'll refine that and give an appropriate appropriation of what's in that mine. Then you can sell that, or you can craft it. So
I think that's great. Sense. It does. My thing that I like about this is, and I know this, it's kind of weird because gaming, I guess it depends on where you fall with the idea of gaming, right? How can I say this? Back in the day, I'm going to go back to like Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah, buddy.
In D&D, you have these different roles that everybody plays, and everybody's role contributes to the whole, you know what I mean, of the game, right? Everybody can't be a paladin in your group. I mean, it could be, but that's not usually how you balance it out. You'll have a rogue, you'll have a fighter, you'll have a wizard, whatever the case may be, a cleric. And at the same time, I do understand when games broaden that a little bit more to allow people to do multiple roles, like maybe my primary was this and I had a secondary that. But I also kind of worry about when the games have allowed people to be everything. And I know CIG is allowing us to be able to experience things without having to worry about a quote unquote skill tree, which I do like. Like this last week, I went from doing mining, and when I got through mining, I was like, my stuff's in the refinery. I'm going to go do some bunkers for a while. Then I got to doing the bunkers. I was like, well, let me go do salvage. And I salvaged for a while. And then I got through with that. And I said, let me go do the 890 jump mission. I went and did that. I like the fact that none of that was based upon, I had different skills in each one of those, but none of them were limiting. You know what I mean?
You were in garden walled between your
exactly.
activities.
And that's what felt good. Right. And I understood where I was stronger in one of these, maybe a little not so strong in another. That was fine, too. The idea of what you're presenting, I like because it expands even more. Togi talked about the recipe idea, right? But then you talked about the refining side of it, which is another side. And they both kind of lend themselves, like you said, to that dynamic of crafting or moving things up to something better. And I think that players will embrace that. It doesn't mean that you can't mine and also be the guy who refines, right? But it does create another category for you to be able to focus in. And there are some people, like, again, I keep going back to Galaxies. There were some people who, that's all they did was slice weapons. They didn't do anything else. That's all they did. They made their money and their living. Same thing with people who made clothing. That's all they did. They didn't go into space. They didn't fly around. They didn't do combats. They didn't go fight kite dragons. They sat at their place and made clothing for people in the game. But if they wanted to leave that shop and go do something, they had the flexibility to do that too. So I, like you, science is very vague. That's why we're bringing it up, because like I know Fastcar's going to come in and talk about the Endeavor, because that's his ship. He loves that. But there's so much we don't know about what that's going to mean. It's very easy to say there's a science lab on it, but what the frick do you do in it? You know what I mean? We don't know completely yet.
Yeah, and it's you're limited on what kind of equipment you'll have inside that.
Yeah,
lab.
What equipment's even there, right? We won't know until we get there. Okay. All right, buddy.
Awesome.
Thank you, man. As always, North End Trooper. All right. Last but not least, the one, the only, Cart Fast. How are you, buddy? Fast Cart.
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Sorry you overslept.
Overslept? I didn't oversleep.
I'm good, thank you.
I didn't oversleep.
So yeah, I think people are missing a great potential when it comes to science in regard to combat. Because what other space game had the potential to say, she blinded me with science?
Why did I save you for last? Why did I save you for last? I don't know why I saved you for last.
But my real answer is, I'm looking forward to when CIG release more information about crafting, because someone previously mentioned crafting.
Yeah.
And I think the Endeavor, like you alluded to, it will be a big gateway to that. And it's unfortunate. The rumor is everybody knows this, and Endeavor is going to be one of the last ships to be released because it's so complicated. And John Crew hates the ship. No, he doesn't hate it, but I'm pretty sure he does know that. But I'm looking forward to the Endeavor and what science will be in Star Citizen.
Let me say this too fast, Carl. I know people keep saying that the Endeavor is going to be the last ship. We don't know that.
We don't know that.
Right.
I did say rumor.
Right. No. I know. That's why I said people keep saying that. Not you. Mm-hmm. People keep saying that, and I'm saying that because, to Kai's point earlier, CIG has they actually have the open end of this to be able to do more, right? People have talked about whether we'll see alien ships or not. Like, we know that there are some alien ships, like Gatak, right? We've only got one, right? Mm-hmm. And right now, most of us would say, based on what we know, the Endeavor is like the granddaddy, right? It looks like the ship the dark horse that does a little bit of everything, which is great. But we don't know, as technology changes, as the game expands, if the game is successful, I would not be surprised if there's something else that comes out again. You know what I mean? Something else. They have the room to do that because it'll keep the interest of the player base. Now, to your point, I know you've always talked about the Endeavor, particularly because it has the collider in it. And the collider is definitely, and the collider is definitely science, right? I mean, we're talking science at this point. And the Endeavor does have one of its modules as a science lab. Again, we don't know what that looks like. We just have an exterior shape. No, we don't. And to North End's point, we don't know what equipment will be in there. All I know is
that science lab has a research lab too, and we don't know how those two will.
What does that mean, right? What does that mean in the universe, right? I mean, we can apply those terms to what we think or what we experience in our world today, but is it going to be some generic thing, or is it going to be very specific? And I'm mentioning that because with science, I wonder, with the Endeavor being this floating, I don't even know if you want to call it a floating ISS almost, if I were to equate it to something that we deal with now.
Base, definitely,
but not a base. I mean, it's a base, but I don't even like using the word base.
When you say base,
because base means there are people basing out of some place, right? I'm saying it's a research. It's a huge, because it's a huge research station, right? A mobile research station. Maybe it's a better way. It's a mobile research station. And when I look at the science and exploration side of it, it's like, once again, let's say you go out with your Endeavor and you come across some place that, for whatever the reasons may be, you go down there and find out there's some stuff here that we've never seen before. We don't even know what it is. And we bring it back there. When I was talking about the sin earlier, I try to go with what CIG says, and I know things can change, guys. So please, I'm not saying this is Bible, but CIG has said when they put things into the game, most of the time they're trying to work toward those things. So the placeholders are not just there just because they're cosmetic. They're there because they give a hint toward the direction that they would like to go. Now, if they ever achieve it, I get it. May not happen. But the fact that the Sin has this workstation in it with a microscope and all this stuff that you can examine things with says something that we're looking at not just a surface scanning of something, but that someone has to be able to look through this thing or look at items, see what the material breakdown or composition of those things are, and then apply it to something, right? And so my question is, will the Endeavor and other ships like it have that same capability? That not only are you just examining things from a science aspect level, but now we start saying, now that we know what these things are, if we combine them, hence, like we joke around about the biodomes, for the Endeavor, and we joke around about, growing certain things on it. But I'm looking at it more from the aspect of the science side of it, that maybe there are hybrids and things that if we look in the lab and realize this is what this seed is, or this is what this plant is, or someone mentioned blood, whatever it is. And now if we go into the biome and bring it in there, we'll be able to create something else. Or maybe it's on a metallurgical level, right? That if you know what these certain things are that come out of a refinery or a certain metal, then now we know we can make a better composite for somebody who owns a crucible, who's now repairing ships. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to see how all that stuff interconnects. How does science tie in all that stuff? So it's not just some surface thing of knowing, here's some copper, here's some aluminum, put them together, boom. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that science takes it deeper. So to the level of metallurgy, you know what I'm saying? Where people start to understand it's more than a simple recipe, but even why certain things, or the things that we find that we don't even recognize, how they can be used to add to those things that are familiar to us. And somebody actually makes a career out of that. They really get into knowing that stuff. That's the level I'm looking
forward to. I'm looking forward to like missions from CIG, make science like missions. Like maybe you got to explore an abandoned sin or an abandoned Odyssey or something like that to find a cure, to find what caused a pandemic and how to cure it or something like that.
Yeah, we do have missions now that have us go do things to retrieval missions from crashed ships or satellites and things like that. It would be cool to get a mission that says there's been an outbreak of something somewhere. You know what I mean? And not just deliver medicine, but maybe there is some type of time frame that you have to be able to replicate or create, and make a certain amount of to produce it, to deliver it somewhere, or a UEE assigned mission. You know what I mean? Under the category of science. Like I said, there's a lot of places they could go with it, right? But who knows, right? Maybe it'll just be add 1 and 2 and 3 and that's it. But I'm hoping that CIG takes it deeper. I'm hoping they take it deeper.
I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you saw the ISC from last week.
Yes.
From this week. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The prototyping. Yep. Saw it. Okay, cool. Thank you, buddy.
No problem.
All righty. That was FC. All right. You guys are giving us some good stuff here. Good stuff. Let's hit our final. Well, before we do our final question, let's talk about our St. Jude. We talked about this earlier that we are, we are doing a charity for St. Jude again. And we hope that you guys will continue to support us with that. We are currently at, we went over 1,400. We're at 1,527. We are on our way to our next tier goal of $2,000, and you guys are already helping us do it. Let's take a quick look at the video for that, and then we're going to hit our final question for today.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and YouTube are teaming up to help end childhood cancer.
In September, supporters from across the nation come together during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month to raise money for the kids of St. Jude.
And that's when YouTube gamers will be posting videos and live streaming to raise funds to support the life-saving mission of St. Jude.
At St. Jude, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because all a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Money raised also supports the research that leads to groundbreaking medical discoveries that St. Jude freely shares around the globe.
I can only imagine as a parent the relief that they feel when someone like St. Jude steps in.
I think it's a really good lesson for us to realize that we need to do more, and we can do more.
It is a huge step in the right direction, a huge step in helping just people and giving back.
It's all for good, and we have a responsibility, a social responsibility to help out.
Find your favorite video or live stream during St. Jude Play Live on YouTube for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and donate to this amazing cause.
Your support will help St. Jude further its incredible mission.
Finding cures, saving children.
Let's end childhood cancer together.
Okie dokie. Let's end childhood cancer. Definitely. As I just mentioned, guys, we are on our way to our second tier of $2,000, where we'll be giving away a UEE Navy field jacket and a UEE Navy cap. And then we won't be far away from our very first, once we hit $3,000, we'll be at our very first 12-hour live stream where we're going to have guests come on. We're going to do giveaways, and we're just going to have a great time. And you guys will have to keep us awake for 12 hours. So I'm not looking forward to that, but I am looking forward to reaching that goal. So hopefully you guys will continue to share with folks about our stream. Please let people know that we're on. Let them know we have a barcode that comes up. We have a link. We want to send that out to folks too as well to help us reach our goals, because we really want to be able to reach this by CitizenCon weekend, October 22nd. We want to reach the goal of $10,000. So those are some of the tier levels that we're going to be doing. We've got a great anonymous donor who has given us some great stuff to give away. This person's amazing. And thank you. If they're watching, if they're not, thank you anyway. We'll put that out in the ether because we really appreciate it. Without them, we couldn't do this. So that's it. That's it on our St. Jude piece. We opened up the show talking about exploration and what exploration is as far as we know. And so we're going to kind of go back to this title that I opened up the show with earlier. What the heck is exploration in Star Citizen? And this is the question I started out earlier about what is it you would like to see exploration to be? We touched on it a little bit on some of the comments from some of the folks who dropped in today, but you know, as we're willing to admit, it's not defined. It's in the game right now. We just have ideas and hints of what we will do. I think it was BBG who came in and talked about the distinction between the Odyssey and the Carrack, for example. The Odyssey being a science exploration ship, where the Carrack comes out to more of an expedition ship, more expedition. And you know, I've tried to look at those ships and compare them and see what are the differences, because for some people they're very similar. Some people say, oh, I've got a Carrack, I don't need an Odyssey. Some people say I got the Odyssey, I don't need the Carrack, right? Some people say that they're different. They're two different animals. CIG has told us that they will put out ships that are just because you've got one type in the game already doesn't mean that another manufacturer could not make their own competitive type, right? So do these two ships match up? Are they the same? Or is there some differences between the two, right? And is one more appropriate for one thing than the other? Now, I'm going to say this is my opinion. So it's not Bible, and I'm just basing it upon what I saw from the game and from CIG. It would seem that the Carrack is designed for, it was mentioned, it's more of an expedition ship. It is the ship that, how can I say this? Because they did a show on this where they talked about being able to scan systems remotely from a ship like the Carrack, where you would send out these drones, they would go into certain areas of space, they would triangulate information, it would let you know if something's in the area. You may not be able to tell completely what it is, maybe you can, depending on the scanning strength or whatever. And then that would be another way of being able to scan an area. Another thing about the Carrack is that it has the Pisces. And some of you guys know that there is another component that is not in the game. Well, there are several components that are not in the game that are supposed to be in ships. One of them is a scanning package. The scanning packages are not in ships. There's some, you guys, ships, when you open up the component area where you see a scanner is, and there's nothing there. There's no component there. That's a different type of scanning versus the type of scanning that we do currently in the game. But there are also jump drives, right? There's the quantum drives, and then there are these other drives. And there's navigational things that allow you to do certain things. The Pisces is supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, a ship that is not only like this little scout ship, but that, at my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, because there's so much information over the last 10 years, stuff starts to blur. But I thought that it was also a ship that could go in someplace, check out stuff, and zoom back to the ship. That's one of the reasons why it has a quantum drive in it. The Odyssey, on the other hand, and remember when the whole thing came up about the Odyssey having the mining capability, and everybody kept thinking it was going to be a mining ship, and they were like, no, it just mines Quantanium. And the reason why we need Quantanium is obviously so that it can make jumps, right, from place to place, and be self-sustaining, which the Carrack is not. Carrack has great range, but it seems like they're making the Odyssey to be something that can self-sustain. Now, the other thing I saw the Odyssey as is that, and someone said this earlier, if the Carrack finds stuff that's out there that nobody knows about, the Odyssey becomes the ship that goes there to start digging, to really start figuring out what's going on. They both have cartography areas in them, but this one has a science area, a dedicated science area in it, which to me means that there's a little bit more there, that this ship is doing research and lab work and everything else once something that is unknown has been found. It's the one that stays there, where the Carrack goes out and continues to look for things. Now, I could be wrong. That's my personal read. And that's how I see those two ships coexisting within the universe. Not that they're mirrors of each other, but that one does something that the other one doesn't. And there are some people who want that Carrack lifestyle and the Carrack life. They want to do that. And there are going to be people who want the Odyssey. There are going to be people who want both. Okay. So I want to talk about this. What is the exploration in Star Citizen? Now, I don't want to confine it to the Odyssey and the Carrack either, because you could have a Sin, because the Sin has a jump drive, and you could be by yourself as a solo person doing exploration, and it looks like science. You could have a 315P, where because of the 315P, it has a scanning package in it. and it has long range capability. Whereas a solo person, you want to go out inconspicuously and explore. It's got an area in it where you can store things. The ramp comes down. If you don't know that, on the 315, there is a storage ramp that comes down where things you find you could put on that ship and take with you. It's got a tractor beam. I have yet to figure out what that tractor beam is supposed to be doing. I don't get it because it's on the front of the ship, and I don't think you're tractoring things through a wormhole, but maybe you are. I don't know. Anyway, you could be that solo player who wants that. You could be that person with a 400i with just a couple of friends, and that's the way you do it in style. So there's all these different things. But I want to talk about, what is exploration to you? What do you see based on what CIG has presented to us? Maybe your own ideas. I don't want to get too fanciful, though, because I don't want, everybody's got their idea of what it means to explore space. But what do you guys like to see happen in the Star Citizen universe? Okay. So let me bring in Kai in, and we're going to kick this off. Kai, you there? He's got to unmute. I know he needs to unmute.
There we go. Sorry about that.
There he is.
All right. So to me, there are 3 parts to exploration.
Okay.
The first is the larger contextual model.
Mm-hmm.
In that, the best game that has ever existed as a game is Elite Dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what is your galaxy model? What is the playground in which you're playing in?
Mm-hmm.
There are a million different aspects to a space game, and Elite Dangerous beats the living hell out of Star Citizen, even with what it's suggesting Star Citizen may someday do with regard to its galaxy model.
Okay.
And then it falls completely flat by making it completely empty. It has the greatest galaxy model ever created in a video game. It's second best ever created in a digital setting. The first best is actually what is it, Galaxy Simulator, that has Space Simulator, but that's not a video game.
Right.
But Elite Dangerous has the absolute best galaxy model. So that is key. You want a good galaxy model. The second best is using procedural generation to make the planets interesting once you get there. And Elite Dangerous completely falls flat and fails to do that in any way. The best example of that I can find is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky does a really good job of making each planet full of interesting things. Now, it does this by being completely devoid of science. It's just stupid. It just rolls the dice and goes, we have a planet of giraffes that look like pickles. And you're like, what? How? What?
Right.
But like, they do a neat, they populate each location with lots of fun shit.
Right.
And like, okay, cool. And the third example of that, but the galaxy model is dog shit, and it has absolutely no idea whatsoever what the term science means. It's just like ProcGen for funsies.
Right.
And I love No Man's Sky. I'm not trying to shit on it.
Right.
And I loved Elite once upon a time. I'm not trying to shit on it. But this is what I'm talking about, where you have projects that get one part so very right, and the other stuff so much.
Yeah.
And the third place, which we already discussed briefly, was Eve. Eve, I think, gets it exactly right on skills that you need and abilities to do things with those skills, because they make pieces to ships and they put skills in the game that you have to research. And even if you have the skills researched and you have the ship pieces, you have to fire out probes, you have to triangulate, you have to kind of be smart and skilled in what you're trying to do in order to make it worthwhile.
Right.
If Star Citizen were to take the larger contextual model of Elite Dangerous, of a good galaxy model, take the procedural generation to put stuff on planets of No Man's Sky, and were to take the science and skill-based rich gameplay loop of Eve, you put those 3 things together, you have a game that will break the world. That's it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ready Player One. We now have the Oasis and Chris Rock. And you know what? I'm rooting for them. I don't see that they're going to do it, but I'm rooting for them, and I've invested. I'm along for the ride, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Now I'm going to shut up and let everybody else have some.
I want to say this before you go. The good thing is that there's been, each one of those games in its time, was groundbreaking for what it did, right? It did something different
to the conversation.
And to your point, if CIG or whatever game company isn't aware enough to look at the history of games and the progression and say, what are the bests of these things that we can grab and embrace and hybrid them into something that works, you're absolutely right. It would, first of all, it would extend the longevity of the game, the interest of the game, curiosity about the game, and that feeling of somebody's finally getting it closer and closer to what we want to see as players in a game. I think you're absolutely right. I think the formula you got there, Kai, is a great one. Anybody who's played those games, you know exactly what was said. That would make it. It would make it good. That's all I can say about it. It would make it good.
But I mean, saying that is easy. Doing
it is another story.
Is a moonshot. It's literally landing on the moon.
It's tough.
Good luck to anybody who wants to try.
There you go.
But you know, if I had to put my money on anybody, Chris Roberts is as good a person as anyone else to put your money on. So fingers crossed.
All right, buddy. Thank you, man.
Later, brother.
All right. Very cool. All right. Admiral Kusanagi. Let's bring him in. Admiral.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
So one thing I did want to touch base is Juramunker. They were talking about when you bring the Carrack in first, and no, because you have to find the system first. So if the system is unknown, the Carrack has to find the jump point. And I think you are right, where the jump points are supposed to move around. So there's like the stable jump points that we will get for Pyro, and there's also smaller ones that we can find our own. But I think some of them are supposed to be unstable. So it's like if there were 100 Carracks in the game, they wouldn't have no job in like 5 years because we found every jump point. They would be, I think they're supposed to move around.
Well, let me touch on this too, guys. We were talking about this earlier about why are certain ships their ship, and what we didn't talk about was this. There's still the logistics of operating any ship that you talk about, right? The Carrack may be, Pops used the term of like the granddaddy of all ships, but you got to man it, and you got to have people who are willing to go out there and be in space for a good amount of time. This isn't, in EVE, we used to do this thing where you went out into space and you came back and went back to the space station all the time. Where this game is actually being designed like Elite, where when you go out into space, you stay out in space. And even in Elite, I'm in my ship by myself, right? It's just me. So when I log out of the game, it's just me. When I'm in my Carrack, more than likely, I mean, I know some of you all are daredevils and you'll go get in your Carrack by yourself. All I got to say to you is have at it, Hoss. But if you're going into unknown regions of space, I just got finished watching this long video the other day, Admiral, of Chris Roberts' earlier conversations about the ratio of people in the game. And what he said was, they've got this ratio that says that for every, the ratio is supposed to be 9-to-1, something like that, right? 10-to-1, whatever. One player for 10 NPCs or 9 NPCs. One of the things that he said, and I don't know if they're doing this or not, guys, because this is from a while back, but it seems like this is where they're going. They said that number fluctuates based on the amount of players in the servers. So in other words, every time a player comes in the server, it kicks NPCs out and vice versa. When there's less players in the game, more NPCs come in. He said that's the way they're going to make the universe feel populated all the time. Now, if you're taking your Carrack out and you're going into unknown regions of space, unknown may be unknown to you. Doesn't mean that no one else is out there. Nothing else is out there. So if you decide to take your Carrack 12 jumps out somewhere where you've never been, it doesn't mean that there isn't some other NPC gang or NPC race that's not out there too. And you want to go out there in your Carrack by yourself, or you and your 2 friends, and you run up against a gang or whoever out in that area of space. And I'm going to go further with this, Admiral, because I want people to think about this exploration, that there's some dynamics there that I don't think people are thinking about. You go out in your Carrack, and CIG has told us that the destruction of ships is not the optimum goal, but the disabling of ships. So if you go out there and have a whoever with some NPCs, and you lose the battle because you have an undermanned ship, and now your ship has been damaged to the point where it cannot move, you're stranded as a player. That's because you went out there with 2 or 3 people. And, maybe the parts you brought with you, the quantum drives you got destroyed, or maybe you already used one of them and didn't bring enough. Whatever the case may be, the risk of exploration is going to be, there's a lot of factors to that. Now, you've gone out there and you're stuck 12 systems out because you decided to take the Carrack instead of taking the DUR. you know, you were way more obviously seen riding around in your big Carrack, your Odyssey, than you would have been if you were in Aquila. I mean, these are things that I'm not sure people have thought about, because this is why I said everybody has their idea of what exploration is about, but I'm also trying to combine what CIG has said about going into space. And so that's why this big list of ships are here. Yeah, there's some ships that go through certain size wormholes and all that stuff. I get that. But there may be reasons why you will quickly jump into your Aquila or your Dur versus jumping into your Carrack. Now, maybe the Aquila or Dur, even though the Dur holds 5 people, but maybe you can go out there with 3 people and pretty cool, or be more elusive or get away. Where if you got that big old honking Carrack out there and you get attacked by a group of 8 pirates, your odds are you're going to lose. Let's call it for what it is. You only got 3 good guns on that sucker, and it moves like a turtle. So you get disabled out there with your Carrack, and you don't want to hit backspace, because that means if I die, I'm going to not only leave everything out here in space, all the stuff I've collected on my Carrack for the last 3 days we've been out here has now been left in space. Plus, I'm going to take a hit to my DNA, which means that if I kill myself, maybe the next time I don't get to come back as me. I got to create a whole new character. There's all these dynamics involved with going into exploration. And I'm not sure players are thinking about all that. They're thinking of the romanticized version of what it means to explore in this game. And I don't think that, I think the romanticized side is there, but I think there's also the hell side of it too. So that's why I'm throwing this out here to you guys. What is exploration going to mean to you in Star Citizen? That's the end of my preaching. But I want to put that out there because I want us to think about what CIG has told us about the game, the dynamics of the game, and are we being aware of what it means to explore? Okay, the Van Duel ain't the only scary people out in the verse. A lot of other things out there. Okay, go ahead, Admiral. Anything else you want to say?
I need like 20 minutes now to think about what you just said.
If you want to come back, you can. You know, you want to come back?
Remember the Aquila commercial when they had like the 4 people in the front of the crew, and it's like super old now.
Yeah.
And they land on it, and the
creatures are down there.
The creatures are down there, and they're throwing stuff around, and it's like, oh yeah, the RSI.
Yeah.
And that's like really just the beginning steps of exploration.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like, you know, that you're finding locations, you're hopefully finding places that nobody else has been on to, especially like, you'll say real people, but I think when we look at NPCs, like we understand that, you know, we're only 10% of the economy and the population. Some people don't get that. We're like, oh, I'm going to control a planet. I'm like, have fun with that. The thing with the planets, like creation, and then the fact that the computer generated and all that, but every planet, every moon, like somebody, like a real person in development has actually put their paintbrush to it. They've added certain things. So unlike Eve and ED, where it's like, oh, it's all, you know, we have 1 billion, you know, star systems. It's like, okay, but nobody went out to each one and made it unique. Made it like they touched, you know, they made this plant, and you know, all that type of like amazing stuff that only people like, you know, AI is getting good and all that, but I think when you have a person, a human touch to it, it just brings a level of
more to it,
and it's really nice to see.
It is.
So I think that's what that exploration is just like. Hey, what did a real person put in the game that, you know, we can find? They still have that thing in the cave that nobody has found yet. Like, well, who does exploration in the Star Citizen right now? Because that stuff is still out there.
Yeah.
It's like saying like, hey, the Holy Grail is there, and you have all these like, you know, Indiana Jones, and like they haven't found jack crap yet because it's still out there.
That's
like
true.
If the Ark of the Covenant is in a cave someplace and nobody has found this thing. It's kind of wild to think about, and then they've actually that's a game loop right now. I am disappointed that like there's only like 1 research mission, and it's just to set up a stupid little satellite, and that's all it is, and you can't go beyond that.
Yeah.
So because I've tried it, I'm like, just get better. Like, what else is there?
Yeah.
So I mean, exploration is just finding like what somebody else hasn't done, and it's going there for a long time. You know, it's going out there. I know there are people in chat. I know there are people in the Soul Citizens that just load up their Carrack or whatever ship it is and just stay on there for like a month or in between patches, and that's what it's going to get to. And I think, you know, looking at the the Odyssey, being able to self-sustain, and maybe even find food out there that hey, this is edible, and then we could add this to our supply and then bring it back and sell it or whatever they want to do. That's cool. I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say. This game is gonna be cool when it comes out in 2035. That's all I'm gonna say.
We'll see. All right, Admiral, thank you. All right, let me bring in Jay. I haven't talked to Jay today. Jay Voodoo Child. Jay, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good. I'm doing good, man. What's the word?
So, thank you for the topic. I have a word of caution, though, about imagination and that sort of thing. One of my fundamental ideas is this is not a game for me. This is a game for Chris Roberts, making his vision of the ultimate space simulator.
Yep.
And so, going back to last week's discussion, I feel I am sitting on a lotto ticket. I've purchased my lotto ticket and I'm imagining all the things, all the great things that I'm going to do in this game and all that good stuff. But I caution that, or I hedge that with that those dreams are probably not going to come true. And I just got to put it in my mind that, this is maybe what I want, but I got to be okay if it's something different.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we opened the show up with that conversation. I talked about the fact that this is one of the most vague areas. People keep talking about it, and we talked about the fact that exploration was the highest rated thing that the backers said they wanted to do in the game. And it is also the one thing we know the least amount about. And so part of the stimulation of this is to talk about, based on what CIG has shown us, what they have shared, which is tidbits, right? Very real tidbits, but also as you as a player, what would you like to see? What for you would feel like exploration? Because Admiral just said something that I think is important. If you've never been there, it won't make a difference in some cases if someone else has been there. It's new to you, right? So for you, stumbling across something that no one else is, that maybe you got there last week, right? But I've never been there before. It's still a form of exploration for me. I won't feel bad because you told me, I was there 2 weeks ago. I've never seen it before, so it was great. You know what I mean? But then you might be the person that visits some place for the very first time that nobody in the game has gotten to, and that's why I kind of want to know. And I appreciate what you're saying. I agree. I think people should be careful about the romanticizing of what, because everybody's got their desire as a gamer of what they want to do, right? We hear people all the time, I'm going to get in my Idris and I'm going to do blah. And I hear you say and I'm like, you and the other, 30 people? Who are they? It sounds great, but is it realistic? And to your point, is it what Chris Roberts is going to put in here? That's a very good point,
So months ago, I remember two Soul Citizens talking about right now they are doing exploration because they're going out to all these little points, and that's what they are enjoying the game with. And I think that's great. And if that's your thing, go out and do that thing. And as you said, it doesn't matter if other people have been there. It's new to you.
Yeah. I mean, there are simple things, and Admiral just said it. Like, for example, don't get me wrong, this is like low-level exploration. But remember when they told us that there were Picos in the game? For some people, there were some people who jumped on that. You know what I mean? They went out there looking like, I'm going to explore all the caves and look up there. Other people are like, I can care less about them Picos. Exploration is going to mean something a little different to everyone. I think that's one of the things too. Discovery, is a factor for people. Again, if you got there before me, I don't care. But if it's like, I finally got there, like you tell me a story about something you found, and if I go there and it's like, now I see what Jay was talking about, man, this is amazing. You know what I mean? That's still exploration for me. I'm not going to feel bad because you saw it first, but I think that as the game expands, and we don't know what level of expansion it will be. We're at one system now, looking forward to our second system, 3rd, 5th, 10th, whatever it gets to be. When will we start to feel like we're actually seeing those things that nobody's come across? CIG really hasn't done that yet with us, where they put something in the game and we didn't see it coming or we didn't know about it. I'm looking forward to that point when all of a sudden I'm talking to you and you say, Griff, I was out last week, dude, and there was this space station that it's not on the maps, And I'm like, what? Where? What are you talking about? That's the level of when I start feeling like there's exploration, when it's not because I saw it on the ISC or SCL or in the newsletter, But CIG has put things in the game now, and we are literally stumbling across stuff. You know, that's what I'm looking forward to. You know?
And, you know, I could talk for hours about, you know, crewing ships and doing expedition type stuff with the Carrack and leaving your ship out there, and how do you manage that with extra digital downloads. That's kind of like the one thing that I've really focused on, and that sort of thing. You know, 2020, the AMA, they still said, you know, we are still planning on having players possess your extra digital downloads.
Yeah.
And, you know, going back to the 2013 blog that's still out on the website explaining how all that's going to work. That's how you do deep exploration. For me, it's going to be like your weekly raid night in another MMO. It's like every Tuesday, you and your 4 friends are going to say, we're going to hop on to my fully crewed Carrack out in deep space, and we're just going to leave it out there week after week. And whenever we run out of supplies, then we find some way to resupply. And you know, I've got ideas on that as well.
No, that's right. That's great. I love that. By the way, when you do that, let me know. I'll be happy to jump on your on your Carrack with you. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. Okay, Jay. Thank you, brother. Jay's always got good stuff. Let me see who we got here. Let me get Pops, and then I'm going to have a stunner, and we're going to wrap it up for the day. Pops, you there?
Yeah, yes, I am.
What you got, buddy?
Okay, you know, I want to take a piece from the lore, and I'm going to, you know, kind of reference it to Pyro. And for those of us that kind of know the history of Pyro was discovered, and now it's kind of gone out of its cycle. It's in its lower end. It's been mined all out. You know, exploration is going to start like that. We're going to find new systems. And that's going to be the beginning. And I'm referencing it to Pyro because Pyro's at its end. So we're going to go out and find different systems. And it's just going to be a beginning, bringing in all types of things, mining companies. It may be a lush system where maybe there's vacations, things like that may be valuable there. So it's really going to be a spearhead to me, in my opinion, for so much. And then there's, like I mentioned before, there's going to be local exploration. One of the things I would like to see them bring in when it's needed is a underwater exploration ship. You know, depths, maybe things in volcanic. You know, where we have to go into extreme circumstances, like the Endeavor has that ability. So that's kind of a little small taste of what I'm looking forward to in exploration, because it is such a broad meaning, but it has so much potential there. I mean, every potential.
Your idea about exploration for underwater exploration. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's supposed to be a space game," and that's come up before. And CIG has said, "Yeah, it's still in space, right? It's still in space, and there will be resources, you know, animals, you know, botanical, you know, instance of botany, things like that, other areas of science that we can explore. You know, maybe there will be some materials that you can only find underwater, right? That could be used in science, and as mentioned, science could be treated like refining." There's a whole lot of room there for exploration. And I do want to touch on something. I'm going to wait till I get to the end, because Boss Lady said something earlier that I had meant to mention earlier and I forgot. And then she brought it up. So thank you, Boss Lady. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you're right, Pops. There's a lot of possibility there. Metallurgy. You were talking about the running into some type of lava or magma planet. You can get into metallurgy, all types of stuff. Their medical exploration could be involved in tying into those careers. So it's not just, you know, finding where the latest moon is or the latest wormhole, but what do we take with that information? What are those things that we find, whether it's fauna, you know, whatever it is, and how do we turn it into other areas of gameplay that benefit all the other players too? So that's good stuff.
And, and that's what I'm, you know, you could find all kind of life forms and things that would tie into so much into the game, medical, you know, puffer, maybe some type of puffer fish that has some element that will cure something somewhere else. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Pops. Thank you much, brother.
Okay.
All righty. Last but not least, let me bring in Stunner. Stunner, you there?
Yep, I am.
Yeah.
So awesome topic today and great points by everybody, really. Exploration, like people have said already, is, pretty much anything anybody wants it to be, what it means to them. But I think the cool thing is that really all Star Citizen or CIG has to do to be successful for exploration, and like you said, it's what the majority of people said they were interested in. And it's funny, Pops brought up underwater, because I was going to say that, we've all played those video games where we found a waterfall on the side of a mountain and we all went for a swim. There's anything behind the waterfall. So really all CIG has to do, in my mind, to be successful with exploration is make it rewarding to players. And that can come in a couple different ways. Like I think they've already done that to a certain aspect, just because of, all the attention to detail they put in the game. I mean, there's people that their idea of exploration in the game right now is to fly around on planets and find like glitches that look like landmarks, and take screenshots that nobody's found before. So that's rewarding for them. But in other aspects, they've given us a lot of clues. Obviously people mentioned today the data running. I think they expect information to both be a commodity and to be transported and to be able to be hacked and stolen. Obviously, probably the most basic thing, which is definitely in the game. I mean, we have artifacts now, and they keep talking a lot about that. So there'll be physical, things to find and transport, can be stolen again. But I think a big thing is, like when I look at the Endeavor, especially, and all the different ships, and you mentioned this a little earlier, but I think they really do intend for us again to be able to make that decision. Like, if you have a Carrack and a fully crewed Carrack, and that has that actually more than other exploration ships can go out on its own. You still want to prepare, you still want to gather information ahead of time, but you can make that choice to maybe go and do something that ship is designed to do, or you can decide to go as a fleet. That radar dish is something we didn't talk about much on the Endeavor, but one thing I thought would be really cool is to develop expertise as a player in the game with being able to do, to really read those scans of those long range probes, things like information you can collect with that radar dish. But that would be something I would do as part of a fleet, So I really think that they give us a lot of clues that they, want to give us both those choices, and they definitely want us to be part of big fleets.
I think that, it's going to be interesting to see how CIG balances independent play versus interdependent play. Not just among players, but even the equipment in the game, right? The ships, right? There may be certain times where, like, for example, I'm going on the basic level, y'all. Having a prospector there and having an expanse there and having a hull A there, right? You know what I mean? To be able to have the mining, the refining, and the transport all in the same space where we're all independently working together, not just as players, but the different types of ships that are participating in that gameplay. Same thing with exploration. Will there be some type of symbiotic relationship between, if you're going to go do this, you need to bring a this, and this with you? Obviously, a fueling ship. That would be great. But I want to ask this to you, Stunner. Boss Lady B said this earlier, and we were talking about different types of exploring, and you just gave the example of people who go around looking for glitches. She mentioned about urban exploration, right? Will there be a form of exploration of landing zones, places that we go to where we find that there's something, a mission giver, something that, again, I'm talking about this place where it gets to a point where CIG is no longer announcing this is what's in the game, but that you literally as a player stumble across it and find out that there's a game loop or a game feature that's accessible to us by players. In other words, a form of discovery, right? Could that same type of thing happen? Not so necessarily always have to be way out in space somewhere in the unknown, but maybe even surrounding us, in the spaces that we already are in, underground river, for example, that we didn't know was there. The caves may have deposits of something that's literally perfect for mining. Will there be these type of things that are right in front of our face, these places and spaces that are right there where we live, that maybe there's a form of exploration that takes place even there? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, Boss Lady's very smart, and I sure hope that's the case. I I don't want to admit how much time I've spent actually with the new Lorville rework. Some of those lower levels you can go down to now, and you can see down there that there's ramps and stuff. And I have spent hours trying to find places to glitch through the rails or jump over the rails to get down there. Or over onto those alternate tracks, just because I want to see what might be there, even though I know they haven't finished it yet. So yeah, I think that's got to be a big part of the game.
Yeah. Roboto, I want to comment on that because you're right. I'm not big on the quest side of it. I know, and people have heard me say this before. When people say there's no missions, there's nothing to do in Star Citizen, and I understand what people are saying, right? I do. But the Moby Glass is not the source for me to always find what I need to do in the game. I really want the game to be something that is much more organic. And I know that there has to be a balance between those two, because there are some people who want to be able to sign in because of things like reputation, for example. They need to be able to contact the Hurston family if they want to build reputation with them through the Moby or through a mission. I get that. No problem there. But I also hope that things like POIs, points of interest, are just places that you stumble across and you go inside this place or whatever, and there's something there that automatically launches me into pursuing something, whatever that thing may be. It doesn't have to be even a mission giver, but maybe there's an artifact. There's something that's found there that when I'm examining this artifact, there's some clue or hint to something else that takes me someplace else in the game. I do want those organic feeling things that happen. So it's not always, me hitting the Moby Glass and, okay, what am I going to do next, right? I really do want to have something that feels very natural, but I also think that the game can have those things, again, built into how the design of the game is, that if you want to build reputation in Pyro with a certain gang, you got to go to that person. You got to go to their mission giver or their leader or whoever. I think we've got, I always joke around about Twitch Pacheco, but Twitch is there, right? Go to Twitch. I know where she's at. If I want to find out to get in good with the organization she's with, I can go see her. That's what I need to do. But again, that organic feel I think is important just as much. So we'll see how it goes. Like you said, Stunner, I think exploration can be something different to everyone as long as CIG produces the playground for us to make it happen, right? And gives possibilities. That's going to be the big thing. Okay. All right, buddy. Thank you again. Appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
All righty. Okay. Woo! Full day of exploration, talking about exploration and what the heck exploration is to you as players, and also Star Citizen. I think that you guys gave some really great thoughts and comments to that, and it's a world of possibilities, as Kai said earlier. Possibilities are there. Let's just hope that CIG gets the formula correct, because there are some historical games out there that got close. They hit it on the mark for a good while, but it wasn't, either the longevity wasn't there or it wasn't completely satisfying. Hopefully they'll get the formula together that makes us want to keep coming back to Star Citizen as being our source for exploration in the universe. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's talk about what we got coming up next. Let's see. I got to look over here and see that Fast Car. Oh, he did give me something to do. Okay, cool. He's live at the moment. Okay. Today is Podset Saturday. And today is the day where we partner with some of our other community friends, Paul Shelley at the Astro Pub with the Captain's Table that comes on at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And then after Paul Shelley comes the OGs of Star Citizen Community Conversation, the folks over at Relay. They come on at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We hope you guys will find time today to put them on in the background or watch them. Great information, great shows to listen to if you like filling your Saturday afternoon and evening with information about Star Citizen. Let's see. Tomorrow we are going to be discussing the topic of Space Tycoon in Star Citizen. This conversation is going to be, I think there's three of us on tomorrow, Calrati, Fast Cart, myself, and we're going to be talking about how do you become wealthy in Star Citizen. Now, I want to be real careful about this because we're not talking about making money. We're talking about being a tycoon, right? That's a little bit bigger, right? Yes, origin. That's correct, Stutter. Keep saying that word. We're going to talk about what is it that we want to be able to do as players that we could do now. And then later on, what CIG has kind of said that we'll be able to do in the future about, really becoming a mogul, a magnet, in Star Citizen, really dominating in certain areas. And this is going to go beyond just, making UEC. We're going to talk about dominating in areas of trade and other things like that. So that's going to be our conversation for tomorrow evening on our main show, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully you guys will be able to join us for that, for our conversation of if you want to be a space tycoon. And yes, there's room for more than one. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We're going to get ready to do our raid. Paul on me. We are going to raid. By the way, thank you to those of you who watched us on YouTube today. We really appreciate you guys. Those of you who are here on Twitch, as always, thank you all. Thank you for the follow that we got earlier from Sonic. Appreciate that. And also Envoy for the sub that you gave us today. Thank you to everybody who came in and sat in and talked with us today. I know it was a crazy big subject, but you guys shared a lot of great stuff. And as always, we always appreciate you guys coming in one-on-one. It takes a lot to come in and talk to me because I know I'm a talkative person, but I appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out with us. We are going to set ourselves up for going over to raid our good friend Paul Shelley, the Astro Pub, who is on. Thank you guys as always. Don't forget about our charity fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Hospital. If you haven't given, please give consideration to giving. If you have, thank you so much for what you've done already. And be sure to send out that information to other people. Let them know that we're raising that money by October 22nd, CitizenCon weekend, because that's going to be a real biggie for us. And we really hope you guys can help us out with that. Let's see. There's something else I'm forgetting to tell you guys. What is it I'm forgetting to tell you guys about? My raid button doesn't want to come up. Yeah, that's it. I guess that's all. Till later, you guys take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Gonna send you over to Paul Shelley. Give him our love, peace, love, and soul. What is it? What fast car?
Milestone 1677. You hit 1677.
Oh, we did 1677. Thank you. Oh, great. Thank you guys. We're getting there. Oh my God, we're getting closer to the 2000 mark. Thank you guys so much for that. All right, send you all to Paul Shelley. As always, peace, love, and soul. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.